Hey everyone, I'm Rather Incoherent, and this is the Innsmouth Conspiracy. Before I start talking about my investigators and what I'm doing with this campaign, I want to take a moment to talk about the Innsmouth Conspiracy, what I think of it, and what specific considerations I have going into it. The first thing I think of with the Innsmouth Conspiracy is unavoidable damage. There are so many enemies where they engage you and something bad happens instantly, that if your plan is to just skirt by and pass Mythos tests to not die, that's probably not great. After that, the first thing that comes to mind is the Lair of Dagon. Having to pass the skill check of whatever your lowest skill is potentially very dangerous there. And you also need to be sure you can pass a foot 3 or head 3 skill test to succeed in this scenario. Both of those criteria make Lair of Dagon like a specific check that I think about in terms of what characters are coming. We need somebody that's handling that. And also, the person taking that head or foot check has to be your clueper. If they don't have clues, they can't do anything. But beyond those two things, when I think of Innsmouth, I really just think of like piles of enemies. In Too Deep being a scenario that stands out to me as one that can easily have an enemy cascade and be terrifying. But mostly when I think about Innsmouth, I think about unavoidable damage, Lair of Dagon skill checks, and just dealing with swarms and swarms of enemies. Now, as you can see, I've already done all the setup for the first scenario, and I'll be playing Trish and Tony. I don't really have a reason that I decided to do rogues only for Innsmouth. It just seemed cool. I think a big part of why it seemed cool is because Tony and Trish are sort of the obvious best pair of rogues. Like, there are other good rogues, but they stand out as clearly the best dedicated fighter and best dedicated cluer available to rogue. And if you try to go with the best two flex characters, none of them are like anywhere near the level of Tony and Trish at their dedicated roles. But on top of that, Trish is from Innsmouth. Like, she's in this cycle. She probably shouldn't be because her story has nothing to do with Innsmouth. And Tony probably should be from Innsmouth because his story is explicitly about Innsmouth. His weakness is a deep one, for Christ's sake. So I like picking these two rogues for a variety of reasons, from just being obviously great to the fact that they do fit with Innsmouth. Before we talk about the Pit of Despair, I want to go show you the decks I'm playing for Trish and Tony and what I've got planned for them in the future of the campaign as I upgrade them. I'm going to start with my final plans for decks. That's just how I think about decks. I construct what I want it to look like in an ideal world at the end of a campaign, and then I build it backwards to get to the starting point, and I'll make some considerations along the way about what needs to be done to make it stronger earlier, and what's really cuttable in the endgame version. Both of these decks are a little bit too expensive and we'll probably have to cut something by the end of the campaign. I doubt we get fully online, even with the Sharon's Obol and Tony. And speaking of Sharon's Obol, it's a unique card. So is Leo DeLuca, and so is the Black Fan. And Trish wouldn't mind running all three of those cards, but she doesn't get to use them. The reason I decided to give Sharon's Obol and Black Fan to Tony is straightforward. I think the Black Fan for Tony gives him a lot. The extra action for him is almost as nice as it is for Trish, but the +1 to book combined with Gias gets him to 5 book, and that threshold of 5 book is sort of the difference required for him to be a flex clover. At 5 book, he can reliably investigate 2-3 shroud locations, and at 4, he basically can't be relied upon to investigate anywhere. There's just not enough 2 shroud locations for him to really be a major consideration. And because the Black Fan costs 6 experience, whichever person got the Black Fan would also be needing Sharon's Obol to help pay for it. As for Leo DeLuca, I would rather give that to Trish. But coming over to Trish's deck, there really isn't a good swap for Leo DeLuca. I don't want to cut Jeremiah, Kirby, or Milan because they're giving me very valuable things. Draw, money, and plus book, and Eldritch Sophist is core to the deck. So let's talk about the Trish deck, because it's not that complicated, but it is a little bit weird. I have the entire big money package. All this draw and economy is just to help me set up very quickly and keep me safe from the Mythos deck with Well Connected. It also gives me counter espionage, which further neuters the Mythos deck. And while there's an argument that I don't need Leo in the original list for this, there really is no argument that I wouldn't greatly appreciate the Black Fan and 6 more experience, but oh well. The deck also includes another combo, which is Eldritch Sophist, Red Clock, and Pendant of the Queen. The Red Clock gains a charge every turn, and rather than letting it go over 3 charges and restarting the cycle, you get it to 3 charges for the additional actions, and then you start taking them off of the Eldritch Sophist and put them on Pendant of the Queen for infinite uses of that. It's very, very gross. I think usually in Trish, I would run a second Magnifying Glass or an Occult Lexicon over the Pocket Telescope. However, because Tony is a godless killing machine and will not need any help, I have not opted to take the Occult Lexicon. And specifically because we're playing Innsmouth, I have opted to keep the Pocket Telescope. Being able to look at the Tidal Tunnels deck without going to them can be very, very helpful for me. And specifically in Horror and High Gear, this card just trivializes the scenario. Coming back to Tony, Tony's deck looks really similar because he's doing a very similar thing. Big money deck, protect yourself from the Mythos deck with Well Connected. I've also got Black Fan for further payoffs. And you'll also notice I'm running more draw than Trish because I really need to find this one Switchblade. I don't have to find it immediately. I can use a long Colt for a couple of turns or just punch people to death because I'm Tony and I've got all the actions in the world. But I do need to find the Switchblade relatively quickly so the deck is very high draw. There's a very real argument that by the end of the campaign I'm going to disagree with this idea and get a second Switchblade, but I really don't think that's going to happen. At the start of the campaign, though, I have no doubt that I need way more than one weapon. Black markets are not in my deck. Which is why, at the start of the campaign for Tony, I'm going to be running Knuckle Dusters in the Mulzer instead of just one weapon. Originally, in this deck, I was running the 45 automatic over Knuckle Dusters, but I figure if I'm not running Knuckle Dusters in Tony, I'm never running them, and Knuckle Dusters is an amazing and fun card, so I really want to give it a shot. There is the small but hilarious chance that I kill myself in Scenario 1 with Knuckle Dusters to Sharon's Obel. I'm just going to assume that won't happen. And as you can see in my Scenario 1 deck, I've taken in the thick of it. I just need more experience for the deck to get to where I want it to be. So I've taken Sharon's Obel early for an additional 2 experience from it as well. And I've picked up Easy Marks for the last cards because Easy Marks are just good cards. They help me draw to my deck and be more consistent, as well as getting well connected online faster. This is a really straightforward deck. I have the setup cards from Green and Yellow. I have Lonnie Ritter Heavy Furs, so that Lonnie Ritter and Heavy Furs can combine to give me infinite Horror Soak at the cost of 1 resource a turn. And then I'm just running a couple of assets to, kill people with. Kind of an important thing, it's my whole job. Coming over in my Trish deck, I don't think I actually need to run the Adaptable. I can just deal with Eldritch Sophist being dead weight for a little while, because he really isn't dead weight. I'm mostly afraid of horror damage, and he has 1/3 soak. I don't want to play him, but he's not actually the worst thing to have in my deck, so I'm going to be trying to avoid spending the experience on Adaptable and just being a little bit weaker early on. And the level 0 deck is largely what you expect out of level 0 Trish. I'm running Manual Dexterity and Deduction because Deduction is crazy, and if I do need to dodge somebody early on before Tony's gotten fully online, then Manual Dexterity is going to help me out with that quite a lot. Of course, I'd rather not dodge them at all. I'd rather play Working a Hunch to dodge them automatically, but that might not always be an option, or maybe I'd rather get the clue with Working a Hunch because it's a high shroud location. But regardless, this deck, much like my Tony one's, a very straightforward deck. It's using green-yellow cards to set up very quickly to do a very strong but focused thing. I think that just about covers it for everything I need to talk about involving either my deck building plans or the Innsmouth Conspiracy as a whole. There's one more thing I should mention. I've made Tony my lead investigator. I think all that affects on this campaign is where a couple of enemies will spawn, including the Amalgam right here. So I figure I should make him my lead investigator so they spawn with him. Usually I'm a lead investigator on the left, but not always. The character that draws the most is always on the left, and that's going to be Trish this game. And the reason for that's just because if I hit draw on Tony, I'm going to draw to Trish's hand, so it's easier to use on Trish. So let's get into it. I'm going to be doing the same thing I've done in several previous campaigns, which is that I won't be reading any italicized flavor text in the campaign guide. I will be reading all the flavor text on the agendas and the acts and any other cards that happen during a scenario that inform you as to what's going on. So let's start with Agenda 1A, The Awakening. A salmon lies dead on the ground nearby. Its scaly flesh just starting to rot. You can tell from the kelp and the dripping wet walls that this cavern was underwater not too long ago. How much time do you have left before high tide? It's got a 7 doom threshold, and the forced effect is what I'm going to call the standard drowning rules. If I start my turn in a fully flooded location, I have to enter an unflooded or partially flooded location, or I'll take 5 damage when I end my turn. Pretty straightforward. If you're underwater, you got to get out from underwater to catch your breath. Otherwise, you're drowning. Our Act 1 is the pit. You've awakened in a waterlogged cavern, your mind robbed of its memories. And you're not alone. Whatever else lives in this cavern, it can't possibly be friendly. You have to get out of this place and back to civilization. This will need 6 clues to advance, but depending on what the board looks like, we might stall for a few turns, because again, it's going to summon the Amalgam. So, let's get into it. Let's draw our opening hands and see what we're dealing with. Eventually, we'll start drawing weaknesses and I can evaluate this. Deep Knowledge always stays. Magnifying Glass always stays. At 5 to what is our opening shroud? 3 shroud, 2 clues. I'll hold Burning the Midnight Oil with a Magnifying Glass in hand. Well Connected can get out, and Shortcut can get out. Our signature is really, really nice, not because it's a good card in its own right, but because it means that we're completely safe from our signature weakness. We can just play this and get clues to kill him, as opposed to having no real way to deal with him at this point in the game. Because Shadow Agents, wherever he is, does have 5 evade. Even with a manual dex, I'm only up +1. the best way to deal with him is to get away from him within the shadows, or have Tony engage him off of me and then find a clue to kill him. Over here in Tony's hands, we can put all the curses in the bag at the start of the game and play 2 easy marks and a crack the case. This might be the weirdest hand I've ever considered full holding. I don't hold the crack the case because I have 2 easy marks and I'm drawing a million other cards. And we're probably not getting these clues on turn 1 because, well, we're putting 6 curses in the bag. But I do think I hold double deep knowledge and double easy mark. That sounds right to me. Jesus, really? Man, I should play poker professionally. That's ridiculous. And before I get started, there's one more thing I want to do. I want to start using some tickers. First, I'm going to have one that's just generally for Doom on the board. That way I don't have to like count every time how many Arcane Initiates are in play. This is interesting. I appear to have dragged the Elder Sign out of my menu. I'm going to drop something else and see if that fixes it. No. Let me save and try again. Okay, it looks like when you save and load, the error persists. So I'll be restarting my game. That's a cool one. Okay, technical difficulties dealt with. I have little clickers I'm using to count the number of Elder Signs and autofails I get. I would like to track stats more thoroughly than that, but this is at least a cool visual way to keep track of it. And I think the only way I'm ever going to remember to do it is if I keep them right next to the buttons so that as soon as I get one, I can just click it immediately without moving my mouse too much. And that'll help me avoid having any issues where I either forget to click it or think about clicking it instead of the other thing that's more important, like taking one horror from my location. And it also keeps my stats separate so I can see Tony and Trish's luck independently. I'm pretty confident this is an insane opening hand, but considering I'm spending my whole first turn not playing a weapon as the primary fighter, not like super confident. I'm going to go first on Trish. I'm going to play Deep Knowledge, put 2 curses in the bag, draw 3 cards. Oh, when you reload a game, a lot of stuff on Tabletop Sim breaks. And yes, this setup button broke. So I'm going to quickly put all of these back in the Tidal Tunnel deck. The 3 important ones should still be set aside. Yep. I'm going to shuffle that and do setup again. Anyway, let's draw our 3 cards over here. Those are very good cards. I'm going to play Jeremiah Kirby for 4. I'm going to declare even because most of my deck is even. Draw 5 and put all the wrong cards back. Magnifying Glass is going back. My weakness is going back. The rest is staying. I'm going to play Magnifying Glass for my last resource. And I'm going to investigate using Burning the Midnight Oil at, I believe, 6 to 3. Yeah, so we're up 3. -2 will take a clue. Over here on Tony's turn, there's definitely a deep knowledge happening at some point during this turn, so let's just get that out of the way now. And Trish clearly doesn't need the card. She's already close to overdrawing. The Malzer's good. I'm going to play the Malzer unless the easy mark hits Knuckle Duster, I think. I was just checking to see if I added those curses real quick. I'm going to play all 3 of my easy marks to gain 6 resources and draw 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. Lonnie's really good to see early, so is Cigarette Case. I will play the Malzer first. I was considering playing Lonnie and just punching enemies to death. But if I get something like Deep Wind Bull... Well, against Deep Wind Bull, I actually need both of the cards. Deep Wind Bull is not going to be dying too reliably at only 6 base attack. So I'll just play Lonnie out now to start using her as soak immediately. Which brings us to the upkeep phase. Knuckle Dusters, hell yeah. The draws have been absolutely nuts this game. I mean, double Milan Douglas Cigarette Case, like, it's not that great over here, actually. Everything I've drawn after the opening hand sort of sucked, actually. I basically drew 1 Cigarette Case and 5 blanks on Trish, but everything's going perfectly for Tony. Anyway, top of the round, 1 of 7 Doom and Evil cards. Dreams of Alea is basically a permanent -1 sanity in this team. And over here we have, oh, the wrong character to pull Memories of Oblivion. I'll definitely throw a Milan at this. Actually, I'll throw a Well Connected. The second Well Connected is worthless. And there's no point committing anything from my hand because it's all only worth 1 book, so I could just as easily discard it as I would to take it on the skill test. There's no point committing things for 1 book. -1, that's a fail by 1. Who do I love the least? I think it's Deep Knowledge. I think I've drawn enough cards and I have Lucky Cigarette Case going into play, so I toss the Deep Knowledge. I think for Tony's turn, I was playing out 3 assets. I'm playing Malzer, Knuckle Dusters, and Lucky Cigarette Case. for all of my money exactly. There's really not anything else to think about. Nothing complicated is happening there. My fighter is just finishing his setup completely. Over here for Trish, I'm going to play Lucky Cigarette Case before I do anything, and then I want to investigate at 6-3. +1 gets me the Cigarette Case draw. I don't have Milan in play. I wish I did. Working Hunch is nice, but without Milan in play, I'm not going to be able to afford it for a while. I essentially just have 3 dead cards, which I guess at least is nice for throwing books at things or just discarding freely from hand against event cards. And at this point, we need to go somewhere else. I think generally the way to play this optimally is to go left or right as you progress the act and get more locations, and then circle back around. So ideally, you don't ever go to the middle. You just catch that on the circle down. So it's just like irrelevant which I go to, left or right, but I don't think I should be going down. Title Pool, hell yeah. I don't know why I came down here. Title Pool is a 3 shroud, 2 location. It's going to gain more shroud as it gets more flooded, which right now it's not at all. And when it gets revealed, you put one of the face down keys on it. Speaking of, I forgot to take the key when I got the last clue on Trish, which is a lightning bolt action. And I'll just be investigating at 6-3 again as my last action, -1, easy game. And that's it for our turn, so we'll take our upkeep. Second Knuckle Duster is kind of irrelevant. And Teleport's really good, but we won't be able to play it for a while. 2 of 7 Doom and evil cards. Swarm of Rats on Trish is not a problem at all. Do I want that Swarm of Rats to be wanted? I may as well. I don't need to do that, though. The only way I ever need to place that bounty is if, I'm going to not place the bounty on the Swarm of Rats. The only way I ever need the free action this turn is if Tony pulls an enemy too. And if he does, I can just put the bounty on that enemy. Undertow gains Surge, and my location is unflooded. Deep Wind Assault. Hey, speaking of pulling an enemy, so I could need to use a bounty, let's go grab an enemy. There's some consideration to grabbing Deep Wind Bull right now to get him out of the way. But that's stupid, because I think we're going to shuffle the deck very soon. I don't remember which one does it. We'll just be taking a Lurking Deep Wind. When he spawns, he's going to spit at us, and by the way, I forgot to set my health values when I started, apparently. Anyway, like I was saying, when he spawns, he's going to spit at me, deal 1 damage. May as well put it on Lonnie, there's no reason not to. And now it's our turns. Oh, let's do what I said I was going to do and place this bounty on Lurking Deep Wind. I'm going to go first on Tony. I'm going to use his free action ability to punch the man he's engaged with at 6-2, so really autofail is the only thing that matters. We have curses in the bag, that's not true. I mean, live a little. Yeah, see, get him out of here, no problem. Like, if I can't use Knuckle Dusters when there are curses in the bag, Knuckle Dusters shouldn't be in my deck. It's just a risk I've accepted that I have to live with. I'm going to move over. I don't have any use for my last action. I'm still going to punch over, but I'm going to punch over. I'm not going to use the Knuckle Duster, so if I auto-fail, it'll be less bad. Is that -4 or something worse than that? So let's have a talk about what these tokens mean. Cultist is the -2. So this will total -4, which is actually fine. We killed the rats. We're swinging at 6. And we remove a curse. So let's have a quick talk about the tokens, as I forgot to do that, and also talk about what difficulty we're playing on. I always play two-fisted standard difficulty with the taboo list. The reason I play on standard instead of hard is twofold. First, I think that the way hard makes the game more difficult by making the bag harsher is disproportionately more punishing to characters and strategies that were already less viable to begin with. And I feel it really just closes off the number of options you have to play with more than it balances the game. But the second reason, and honestly the bigger reason, is that I think it makes the game strictly less interesting. On this side, on easy standard, it's -3. If you fail and the amalgam is in the depths, put it into play, engaged with you. You flip it over, it's the same penalty, but it just summons the amalgam. So now, rather than having this decision point about trying to pass checks at -3 and viewing that as really important because of this chance to spawn the amalgam, -3 is just a chance to fail, and independently of that, it has no relation to your results on the roll. There is a chance you summon the amalgam, equal to 1 out of like the 20 things that are in the token bag. And I find that the decision point where you try to pass by these larger negative numbers is interesting and important to the game, and that random chance to spawn boss enemy is incredibly less interesting, or random chance to be poisoned in the Forgotten Age. Generally speaking, when these things go from if you fail, do X to just do X, I understand that it makes the game much, much harder, but it does it in a very random way that I don't enjoy at all. Coming back to this token bag, though, the skull is just a -1 to -3, depending on how flooded your location is. The cultist and tablet are both -2 with a penalty for failure. The tablet will be giving you -1 horror, and you have to have a key to trigger that one. and the cultist will be giving you 1 damage if your location is flooded. The squid is, as I've been talking about, if you fail, put the amalgam into play, and it's a -3. With Tony's last action, I'm just having him walk backwards, and I'm pretty sure Trish will be catching up this turn. And for Trish's turn, I'm going to start by investigating at 6-3 until we succeed. -1, that triggers my cigarette case and gets me the clue. And it also gets me the key, which is arguably much, much more important. Red key is nice, but what are we doing with the rest of our turn? I generally try to hold shortcuts until I need them, until it allows me to take a turn that is individually more important rather than just as generic throughput. I'm going to play out this well-connected, even though it's really not very good right now, just to discard less cards, and I'm going to move back to Tony's location. No enemies are in play, so that brings us to the upkeep phase. Over here, I believe we have to discard something. It will be the cigarette case, because I'm already failing all my head checks anyway. Well connected on Tony will eventually be good, but does nothing right now. 3 of 7 Doom. And we'll just be taking 2 horror over here. We really don't get a say in the matter. I'm trying to find a way to change that, but there really isn't one, so let's just take our licks. Our location is not flooded, thankfully, so we just take the 2. I considered killing Jeremiah, but since I'm so low on money and unable to play Milan, I'm going to be not doing that. Actually, what I could do is play Fallacy Bargain on Tony. That would give Trish the money to play Milan, and Milan would give her a lot more economy going forward and let her actually play these intel reports. I'm going to do that. I'm going to let Kirby die and just take the 1 horror on Trish. Over here on Tony, he's also permanently set to 1 brain with 1 less sanity. And I guess I should tick these down to make it clear that I have them, otherwise I will forget. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go first on Tony. I'm going to do exactly what I've been saying I was going to do. I'm going to play Fallacy Bargain. I'm going to put all of it onto Trish and add 2 curses to the bag. I'm going to play a well-connected just to get it out of my hand and have the option to use it later. And I'll move to scout a location for Trish in my last action. We don't want to go down, so I'm going to go left. Underground River is great, provided we can actually get through the shroud and get all the clues. Over here on Trish, first action, Milan's going to come down. And second action, I'm going to move left over to Tony's location. It's early enough in the scenario that I don't know that I need Milan for soak or not, so I don't want to commit him. And I'm a bit sketchy about playing deduction when I have fail out -4 and autofail instead of just -4, or just autofail rather. But I am going to commit deduction and investigate. Oh yeah, there's a million curses in the bag. Easy game. Okay, so that was obviously wrong, and I shouldn't have done that, but it works out. My heart sank when I saw that curse token. Anyway, Milan gives us the money, deduction gives us a second clue. Everything went perfectly, no punish. Upkeep phase, Heavy Furs is perfect. Tony is basically fully online. Second deduction is also great. 4 of 7 Doom and evil cards. Lurking Deep One, I'll take a damage on Trish. And Young Deep One, I'll take a horror on Lane. I forgot to do bounties when I played the Lurking Deep One, but we're at the same location. I would never have done that. However, now that I've got a second enemy, I would be placing a bounty contact on the Deep Young One. Or the Young Deep One, rather. All these curses in the bag make me kind of hesitant to use Knuckle Duster. I'm going to fire a shot and see if I can avoid using Knuckle Duster here. Well, I'm glad I didn't use Knuckle Duster then. My Maulers is exhausted. Anyway, I shouldn't have removed an action for that because it's a free action. That's Tony's ability. And then I'll be swinging... It sucks if this thing hits me, but it's really bad if Trish gets hit. Or if Trish has to deal with this enemy, rather. Actually, no, it's not. She can just use Working a Hunch and make him leave. In a weird way, it's kind of ideal to fail to kill this guy so Trish can get clues faster. But anyway, I'm going to be taking my next action as a punch check over Trish's head at this Lurking Deep One. There was a good chance that was wrong. But Knuckle Dusters didn't backfire yet. It's so hard to, do math about what the correct play is when curse tokens are in the bag. I just sort of shrug my shoulders and hope, and that's very obviously wrong when you're punching over people with Knuckle Dusters. Just I need to think harder when I'm using Knuckle Dusters. I will definitely be committing Overpower this time, I think. Or do I want to save it for Deep Wind Bull? I might want to save it for Deep Wind Bull and just take the swing twice. I'm going to take the swing twice. Skull is -1. That's passed by 2. I get a draw off of my cigarette case. It's the other Overpower. I actually want to save both of them for Deep Wind Bull. I haven't changed my opinions. So let's swing again. This time we'll punch Barefisted to not give him Retaliate. -2, he's dead. And we get 1 penalty, so 1 resource. Unfortunately, that means Trish doesn't get to use her ability this turn, but that's not really a thing she was in control of, because if she went first, she had an enemy on her, and we'd have to evade that enemy with her ability and working a hunch, so it doesn't actually let us do anything. I could have used her ability in the shadows for one clue, but I want to save that to make shadow agents trivial as opposed to getting one clue off this location, especially with the other deduction in my hand, which I'll be using on my first investigate check. I would like to commit one book in addition to this, but I don't have it. I'm not going to use the deduction, actually. I'm just going to investigate at 6-2 several times. I'm going to assume it's all 3 actions, because there are a lot of curses in the bag, and deduction is probably going to fail if I hit a curse. There's only 3 now, but still. Star. Oh, I have not been using these stickers, have I? I know I auto-failed once on Tony, like just now. And I think that's the only auto-fail I've seen. In editing, I'll eventually catch if these stickers are right and update them to be correct if they aren't. Anyway, Trish's star just lets her investigate somewhere else, which is not relevant at all right now, which is taking the clue. 2 more checks. Cultist. Okay, cool. We get both clues with only 2 actions, and we didn't actually need to do anything. Weird. I think I just draw a card. Actually, I'll gain a resource. If I draw a card, I'd have to discard something, and I don't really want to discard any of the cards in my hand. So I'd have to draw one of the next 2 cards as a bad card. And also, I guess more importantly, I could draw Shadow Agents, and I really do not want to draw Shadow Agents of the last action of a turn. Upkeep phase, Manual Dex is nice. Lets us actually evade somebody. And Malzer is great, just because we'll have more bullets eventually. 5-7 Doom. We're making a pretty good pace here if these evil cards don't get in the way too badly. This is testing 5 book. For each point you fail by, discard a card. Tony's also got intel reports, and he'll be able to play them eventually. I think I'm going to toss an intel report to this, to avoid discarding cards. Because I kind of want everything in my hand except the intel reports. So there's no way I have the money to play both of them for a very long time. Working a hunch is sort of just better. I'm not convinced that chucking this intel report is right, but I'm going to. Curse, curse, -3, -7. Shortcut's not necessary, Milan's not necessary, Manual Dex isn't necessary. Now we're down to nothing but cards I really don't want to discard. Let's remove this curse from the bag before I forget about it. And it's not like I didn't try to get them out of the bag. I did take a turn specifically designed to mill curses, but oh well. I think I just make a point to not draw during my turn ever again, and I toss in the shadows. I'm not happy about it, but all of these represent more clues faster, and in the shadows really doesn't. Anyway, that was brutal. Lurking Deep Wind, Tony takes a damage. Do I want to put a bounty on him? I really want to make sure that even if I auto-fail this turn, I'm able to play Heavy Furs. And this feels relatively under control, so I'm going to spend 6 clues off of Trish. Felt like we had too many clues for some reason, but we definitely don't. And we're going to progress the act. You find a path that leads deeper into this strange cave system, but before you can follow it to see where it leads, the sound of water sloshing behind you sets your heart racing. When you turn to face the sound, what you see next nearly causes you to faint. It's an enormous hybrid of many faces and shapes, some human, some aquatic, all of them misshapen and revolting. As the thing draws closer, you meet the frozen gaze of one of the faces upon its body, and you realize that you recognize it. So, Tony's going to get the amalgam. We're going to be shuffling all of these decks together. And we're going to read Flashback 1 of the campaign guide, or more accurately, I'm going to look at it and skip to the bottom and say that we record a meeting with Thomas Dawson under our flashbacks. And most importantly of all, we're going to shuffle the set-aside title deck tunnel, blah, blah, blah. You press the setup button, we're in Tabletop Sim. And now, every time we reveal a location, we're going to reveal new locations to its left, right, and below it. Act 2A, The Escape. What in the hell is this place, and why have you been trapped here? You have to find a way out, but more of your memories might be tucked away in this pit. And now our objective is to leave once we find a way out, but more importantly, to unlock all the flashbacks we can and collect more victory points. Tony's going to go first, and if he fails to kill one of these enemies, he's going to shortcut himself into a new location so that Trish can get extra clues with it. But there's a good chance he doesn't fail to kill anyone. I'm going to use my free action and knuckle dust this dude. -2, and I don't fail, so something bad happens. I will take my bounty, though. Now the amalgam is only at +3. I'm not actually that afraid of this, but I will use a bullet off the Mauser to minimize chances for backfires. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to use the Knuckle Duster twice now and hope it works out. Skull is -1. Curse -1. Okay. I feel like I've gotten lucky on the curse tokens interacting with this Snuckle Duster in a very, very big way. But that's the 2 hits I need to kill this man, and he's dead. This is now the depths. I didn't really cover the amalgam. I just sort of think of him as a chump, and I'm disrespecting him, so I guess I should actually tell you what he does. He's a 3/3/2 enemy with Hunter. If you evade him by 2 or more, you can take control of one of his keys. And after he engages you, if you control a key, he's going to take one of your keys or attack you. Anyway, after you kill him, instead of putting him in the discard pile or the victory display, you put him in the depths. The depths is just an out-of-play area that he lives in. He'll come back from it. He's like the hunting horror from Miskatonic. Anyway, that's it for Tony's turn. Trish has nothing to go off of, so I'm just going to go blindly into one of these rooms. And my experience has been that the place new button doesn't really work. Yeah. So I'm just going to place it myself. And rather than doing this, I'm going to move everything over. And this location is the idol chamber. This is our location that has the blue key. It's 4 shroud, 2 clues. If we have the purple key, which we don't, I believe that's our last hidden key. It is. We'd be able to get a flashback 4 here, but we don't. So right now we can just get the clues and move on. I think 4 shroud is the worst I'm going to have to deal with, so I'm just going to commit deduction and investigate at 7 to 4. Okay. And then I'm going to investigate again at 6 to 4. -2 is a pass. Man, Squid would have been real bad, wouldn't it? That play was not as good as I thought it was. Maybe don't make snap decisions while on tilt. Anyway, no enemies are alive, upkeep phase. Crack the case is very nice. Lucky cigarette case is irrelevant, but not a problem. 6 to 7 Doom. We're actually making really, really good time this time around. I guess I'll discard the rest of my hand, sure. This card is just brutal. If I auto-fail, I discard my whole hand no matter what, so I think I commit working a hunch to try to save the intel report and the crack the case. That seems close enough to reasonable. So 5 - 4 + 2. That's 3. I still have to discard a card. Crack the case is less valuable than intel report. Over here for Tony, he gets rats. I suspect the rats will be slightly easier, and I will take Tony's turn first. I might put a bounty on these rats just to make sure I can play the heavy furs. Because my turn is just kill these guys, furs, move. And I want to make sure that happens even with an autofail. I punch the rats. Cool. I'm going to get my bounty back, I guess. And kill the rats. Next, I'm going to play heavy furs for 2. Did Trish have a working well connected just now? She did. Can we imagine that I tapped that since I was committing cards and obviously would have wanted to tap that instead? Or in addition to, rather? Like, it's insane that I wouldn't have. I just forgot I played well connected. And now for Tony. Since I got a star, I definitely triggered the cigarette case. And second well connected doesn't do anything for me. I'm going to move twice. I'm willing to reveal, I think, this location. I think that creates a slightly better map. Because it puts our last 2 locations like this. No matter what I do, there's always an awkward edge position like this, usually 2 of them. It's very hard to create a map that doesn't have a couple awkward edges like this. But I think this is the map that I would prefer to have. Underwater Cavern being over here is great. It's not necessarily perfect, but it's very good. Also, I suspect that I forgot to put my partially flooded token here. And by suspect, I mean know for a fact. Because Underground River does spawn partially flooded. Hopefully I didn't get any skulls that passed exactly and should have been failing by 1. Alright, for Trish's turn, I'm going to investigate at +2 several more times. I really don't like that. And I went first on Tony like an idiot, so if I pull Shadow Agents, it's dangerous. 3 out of 14 is pretty much a 20% chance to hit Shadow Agents and ruin myself, which is what I would be seeing if I pulled 3 cards this turn. I kind of feel like I need to just slow down and pull some cards. I haven't hit either weakness. Drawing feels pretty sketch. I have to come back here eventually. I don't like taking this test right now when I'm only at +2. So I'm just going to leave as my first action. See that this how the title's about. Well, shit. This is another thing that I'll have to do eventually. Oh, speaking of putting flood locations down, the whole reason I remembered to flood that one is because this one enters play fully flooded. And let's flood this one as well because it's the same location. Another 4 shroud, 4 clues, and a victory 1. Trish is basically at full health. Do I have chronophobia or some other weakness in Trish? I can't remember for the life of me. I have obsessive. I have the one that discards random cards. I think I'm pulling 2 cards. Like, there's a chance I hit Shadow Agents, which we saw before I looked at my deck to see what weakness I had would have been fine. But Magnifying Glass is great. I'm not pulling a second card. I play Magnifying Glass for 1 resource and Investigate at +3. That fixes all of my problems. Perfect. -2, I pass, I take a clue. Alright, that's our round. Upkeep phase. Roster Sketches is nice, but I'm not sure what I would need it for. Shadow Agents. Had to show up eventually. Shadow Agents is a 3/3/5 enemy. It's going to hunt Trish only, and when it's engaged with me, I can't find clues. If it's evaded, it dies instantly. But being 5 foot, which is higher than Trish, it's going to be pretty hard to evade, especially having been forced to discard my manual decks, and my ability that deals with it, and everything else. Speaking of being hard to deal with, though, it turns out the Shadow Agents are a wanted man. Top of the round, the agenda will advance. Your worst fears are coming true. Puddles of water that had barely reached your ankles are rising and joining one another. You scramble to find higher ground, but your efforts are for naught. In a matter of minutes, the water level has risen to your knees and shows no sign of slowing. Increase the flood level of each revealed location until the end of the game. Each time a location is revealed, increase its flood level. And keep it next to the agenda as a reminder. So these can't actually go above partially flooded. Both of these go up to partially, and this one's already fully flooded. This one does as well. It just looks so similar to the tidal tunnel that I didn't realize it was revealed. Alright, evil cards. Let's see how awful this turn really is. Test 3 foot. If you fail, since the amalgam is in the depths, it will be put into play immediately and attack me. Wow, I really wish I had that manual dex right about now. Yeah, Tony's nowhere near me. I don't know why I thought he'd be able to help. It's not like he has foot icon. Hey, it's 3, right? Is there like lingering penalties for my locations? Saved. Easy. Under toe, he is in a fully flooded location, so he's going to get this put into play. After I move, I take 2 horror and 2 damage, and then I discard Undertow. Absolutely gross. I can discard a card to test at 3 fist, which is pretty good. I'm going to be doing that. So, obviously I go first on Tony. I'm going to use the Lightning Bolt on this to discard my spare Well Connected and test 6-3. Squid is a pass. And this is out of here. As my first action, I use the ability on Underwater Cavern to move to any flooded cave location, like Trish's. And I'm in no rush to engage this man. I can just do it as my last action of the turn with this ability. The awkward thing is I really don't have anything helpful in terms of setting up. I took a short break, I thought on it, I remembered I have Preposterous Sketches in hand, and I'm going to be playing this for 2 cards, or for 2 resources, because there are clues here, right? Yeah. I'm going to draw 3 cards to the wrong hand and hit my weakness. This is generally a pretty poor set of draws. None of this helps me set up, but the weakness is bad. Furthest location from me is either of these. I'm going to put him here in this dead end. That's awkward to get to. And he's going to spawn with a bounty on him and a doom, so let's tick this thing up. And he's generally a kind of gross enemy. 4 fists is a lot, and you do have to go kill him eventually. The fact that he's a loop doesn't really matter because you already have a bounty on him. We've got a good while before I have to, though, and I can use Flooded Cavern to get almost all the way to him. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but I am unhappy about it. What probably happens is after we get to Flooded Cavern, we're going to cut across the map and come back the other way. Because we do have to make a pit stop to deal with this on Tony, and Trish probably has to tag along for safety. This thing would only hit Tony for 1 damage because I can just spend a resource to heal the damage off of a heavy first. Point being that Tony might just be able to punch this guy to death over 2 turns, and I can get a clue out of it. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to engage him now as my fast action, and then Knuckle Dust him. Tablet. Alright, if I had failed that and gotten hit for 2, I'd have had to kill him. And since he's alive, I can make use of him and get through Underground River a lot faster. And I guess I should put a thing on Trish as well to indicate her ability since it is once per round. We're investigating at 7-4. -1, I use my ability and get 2 clues. And I need to get 1 more clue from here. Skull. That's fine as well. That's all 3 clues. 2 from investigating, 1 from Trish's ability. Feel kind of bad for letting Tony get hit for 2, but oh well. If I pull enemies on both of these characters, Trish will be in a really awkward spot. But provided I get anything resembling a reasonable Mythos phase, moving down now is just efficient. So let's look at the title tunnel. This is the fish graveyard. It's got 2 shroud, 2 clues. After I end my turn here, if you don't control a key, which Trish does, I'll take 1 horror. So nothing going to happen to Trish. If I get all the clues and I have the red key, which I do, then I can unlock flashback 3. Enemy phase, Tony gets hit for 2 damage. 1 goes on him, he takes the other one. Or rather, 1 goes on him and the other one goes on heavy furs. We move on to upkeep phase. Intel report is really nice. It means Tony can spend his money helping with something. We need to toss something, and I'm probably tossing the second Mauser. I will never need this many bullets, because I already have the long Colt and 3 bullets after my previous Mauser. And it commits for, like, feed icons. That's just not a thing Tony does. Pocket telescope. It is a little bit late. It would have been nice to look around earlier to know how the map was laid out, but it's really not helpful at this point, and I need the magnifying glasses to break the high shroud locations. Which I guess, realistically, I have done already. I've broken the 4 shroud locations, and I think all of the other locations are conditional shroud. I might be wrong on that, though, so I'm hesitant to toss a magnifying glass, even with 2 intel reports in hand. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's get on to it. 1 of 8 Doom. Let's see the evil cards. Test 3 book. If you fail, take 2 damage. That's fine. I'm testing it up 2, and the damage isn't the worst thing in the world. Glad I didn't commit anything to that. Over here on Tony, the amalgam spawns engaged with me. Good luck on your own, Trish. And also, I forgot to flood your locations. I've already got my bonus action to punch the Shadow Agent, so I don't need to commit a bounty to this anywhere. I think I'm just punching. I'm just punching 3 straight times at minimum. 1 here, 2 here. Let's see what fails. There's no curses in the bag. I'm just afraid of -4 auto fail. Oh, I forgot to do this during the upkeep phase, right? Oh, I can do this before the upkeep phase. I don't know why I thought I had to wait until after the upkeep phase. It does affect well connected on this punch, but like, I'm not sure that matters. Because I don't have enough resources to do it consistently, and I messed it up already, I'm going to let it stick. I'm going to well connect in my first punch against... I think I'm more afraid of physical damage, because if I take a bunch of physical damage, it'll kill my coat, and I can't soak it all. But horror damage is probably not coming in crazy big chunks, and I'll be safe. So I'm going to do it against the Shadow Agents to be at +4. Squid is a hit and a kill. I'll take my bounty. And Trish can have her weakness back. For the next 2 attacks, we're punching at +3 against the Amalgam. Squid is fine. Tablet is fine. Go back to the depths. No one wants you here. Tony is kind of ridiculously strong. For Tony's last action, I'm going to move him down. And I'm also going to use the ability on Lonnie Ritter to heal the damage here and the horror here for 1 resource. Oh, at some point in there, I'm sure I should have triggered Lucky Cigarette Case, but I don't remember any of the numbers I rolled, and I think they were all quite bad. It was like -3, -3, -3, -2, because I think I got 3 squids. So yeah, I probably did not trigger my Cigarette Case after all. And his last action was move, so now it's Trish's turn. I mean, I just investigate at 7-2 twice, right? Probably should have played Crack the Case when I finished off Underground River. I'm pretty sure I had the ability to do that. I forgot it was in my hand because I was thinking about other things. But let's take our investigate checks. -2 and a 0. I take both clues. And here we need the red key, which we have, so we can go do flashback 3. So we're going to remove a tablet from the bag and record a decision to stick together. Okay, so I'll be keeping all the tokens I removed right here, just to see them over the course of the game. And last action for Trish, I think I'm just going to start moving. I don't think there's anything that prevents you from moving. That would be too mean, so I'm going to take my first action now and just move ahead. That's it for our rounds. Enemies don't do anything. Upkeep phase. Kirby is nice for more soak later. Over here, I'm sure I have to discard something. It'll be the second Knuckle Dusters. 3 of 8 Doom and Evil cards. I should be drawing these in the other order. I keep doing it wrong because I'm so used to drawing on left first. I think my official opinion is I don't care what order I draw the cards in because it's fundamentally random, so it shouldn't matter except for very, very edge circumstances. Trish's location cannot have its flood level increased, so I picked the nearest one that can. We never need to come back to Tony's location, so I'm going to fully flood it. Is it start of round or start of turn? Start of turn. So Tony does have to get out of a fully flooded location this turn. That actually might be enough for me to flip this one instead. Because if Tony pulls an enemy, he could have to do really awkward things like kill... What enemy is Tony going to pull? I guess Deep Wind Bull. It feels very marginally safer to flip this one, so I'm going to flip that one. And for Tony's evil card, Young Deep One. I'll be taking one horror, which will be going on to Lonnie. And how do I trigger Heavy Furs again? So to trigger Heavy Furs and intentionally take the damage so I can heal with Lonnie, I just have to pull any symbol and then refund it. That's not too bad. Do I want to give this guy a bounty? I don't have to catch up with Trish this turn. And I don't feel like I need the money, so I'm just going to take my turn normally to kill this man. I have shortcut, but we don't need the clues here, so it's not relevant. Like, if I shortcut in so Trish can get these clues, that doesn't help, because I don't care about those clues. They don't do anything. I don't need them to progress. I don't need them for victory. I don't need them for keys. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead on Tony and place this bounty. I don't think I need it, but I also don't think I'll be needing one for the rest of the game. That's wrong. It's very possible, because of Deep Wind Bull and the like, that I'll need another card. I'm going to not place the bounty after much deliberation. And then I'm going to take my turn and punch him twice with Knuckle Dusters. There's no reason not to try to shoot him with my Mauser. I guess the fact that I don't feel like I can afford to is a good reason. Star, easy game. Turns out I did have bounties to place. He'll take 2 damage, and second hit, -1, he's dead. And then I'll swim after Trish. I'm still constantly having this dilemma with Trish where I want to play the Pocket Telescope. I'm going to play the Pocket Telescope just because it's fun. No. If I play the Pocket Telescope, it will prevent me from getting my Well Connected up this turn. I'd really like to be at +2 on that Well Connected. Okay, there are 5 locations left. I can figure out what the odds are, right? I know that this can be the other tidal pool, which I need to go to. I know it can be the exit, which I don't want to go to at all. I know it can be the other underwater... Oh no, there's a 2 out of 5 chance that it's fully flooded, right? It can be the other underwater cavern or the exit. And if I hit that 40%, I can't go here, because then there's another 20% chance for this to be fully flooded. And if I hit... So I have to go up for safety, or left, rather. And that's just so slow. I will play Pocket Telescope because of that, then. Toss this magnifying glass, play Pocket Telescope. Tap it to look at the other side of this and see if it would fully flood. It is, in fact, the place I need to go to, so I'll walk down. Turns out there was no punish, and I should have just went down with my magnifying glass, and everything would have been easier. But oh well. I investigate 6-3. Cultist, I'll be taking my money with Milan, and the clip. That's it for our round. Enemies do nothing, so upkeep phase. Trish hits another Crack the Case, and Tony hits Reckless. I don't think I've talked about the weaknesses these decks rolled. Reckless is incredibly soft for Tony. It's honestly one of the softest weaknesses he could possibly get. He's probably getting rid of this the first turn that he has it, and if he doesn't, he also probably doesn't care about the money he's losing, because he's either set up and has more money than he needs, or he is setting up and he's already spent all his money. But I do have to toss a card for it. The second Lucky Cigarette Case is free to get. Top of the round, 4 of 8 Doom and Evil cards. Our location is not unflooded. It should be partially flooded. I just keep forgetting to do that when I spawn them. So I test 3 foot, and if I fail, I choose and discard an asset I control. Well, it's been good knowing you, Pocket Telescope. Oh, that's just really funny and sad. So I'm testing at 4-4. I don't have manual decks. So there's nothing I can do about it. Anyways, let's go ahead and discard our telescope. It's really fucking sad. Goodbye, Pocket Telescope. Oh, that's a travesty. I think I forgot to use my cigarette case last turn, but oh well. Rats on Tony, not a big deal. I'm going to go first on Trish. I'm going to investigate at 6-3. -2, take the clue, get the money from Milan. And I lost my train of thought because I realized I never put the key on this location when I spawned it, which is the whole reason I've been investigating it. Because after title pool is revealed, randomly choose one to set aside based on keys and place it here. Which was the purple key. It was the only key it could have been, and that means we can go up to the blue keys location and get it. I think I'm also playing both Crack the Cases, because if I don't play them now, I'm never playing them. Seems reasonable to me. And that gets my well-connected able to do pretty gross things. I want to go to Idle Chamber now in my last 2 actions, but I'll end my turn in a fully flooded location. And probably end my turn away from Tony as well, which is a little bit spooky. I've dealt with Shadow Agents, though, and I don't think there's anything in the deck other... Because, like, Deep Wind Bull has 2 foot, right? And everything else isn't that threatening. Like, I could lose a turn on Trish for doing this, but I could also gain a turn, basically. So I'm going to move up here and just accept that I'm splitting up for a turn. I'm not in danger this round, so I started at a partially flooded location. On Tony, I'm going to swim over here as my first action. I'm going to move over to the location that has Tony's quarry in it. Or is it Tony's prey? Tony's quarry. This location was the altar to Dagon. It's got 3 shroud, no clues, and this is the exact reason I didn't want Trish to follow Tony, is because one of these locations has to be this, and we need... Oh, it turns out you don't even need the blue key. Well, shit. I already have 3 or more other keys. I do have to get this flashback, though, but I forgot that the blue key was entirely optional. As Tony's last actions, I could start killing this thing, but I'd rather not take 1-2 this turn. I also would rather get rid of Reckless, though. And taking the 1-2 isn't the worst thing in the world because I mitigate a lot of it with heavy furs. Oh, I just forgot about rats. They're so inconsequential that I forgot they existed. Let's imagine I did this at the start of my turn. I commit Reckless. I punch rats. Cool. I'm never just going to engage this thing as my last action. That sounds terrible. And that's going to be my turn. I'm not going to be engaging that thing just to get hit for no reason. That sounds like a miserable... So enemy phase, they do nothing. Upkeep phase, Trish is going to pull. Deep Knowledge, a bit late. I don't think I'll be playing that at this point. Unexpected Courage and Unexpected Courage is in my Tony deck? What? Oh my god, it is. I had no recollection of this. I get why. I'm using Knuckle Duster and it gives +2 fist, and I don't have access to blue skills. I immediately understand why it's here, but I forgot I made this decision. It doesn't feel that wrong now that I'm here, but I was very confused at first. Anyway, that was the upkeep phase, so top of the round, 5 of 8 Doom, and evil cards. Oof, gross. She gets the Amalgam. She can't reliably evade it by 2 or more, so she'll just take a hit for 1-1 immediately. The horror will go on Chris, and the damage will go on her. She can't evade it easily enough and just leave, though, so that's not a problem. Over here for Tony, it's already in play, so this will gain Surge, and then I'll discard my whole hand, I guess. I can tap Well Connected to test it 4-4. I've organized my hand, and really, I don't need most of these cards. And I don't want to toss Intel Report. But I would toss Intel Report as like the 3rd card, and I'm very likely to discard 2 or 3 cards. I think because it would be the 3rd card I would discard, I'm not committing anything. Cultist is -2. My location is definitely flooded, so I'll take 1 damage. 1 damage. That's actually good for us. I don't mind that at all. And since I failed by 2, I discard 2 cards, which will be the 2nd Heavy Furs and the Crack the Case. Trish's turn could potentially be very, very bad. Because she needs to evade this thing. And if she misses her first action on it, then she just has to leave the location without getting the clues. I mean, there's nothing to do about that. I'm going to evade it until I succeed, unless I have to just leave because I'm drowning. Whew. Easy. Now, if I can continue getting lucky and pass a similarly difficult investigate check, that would be great. I wonder if it's right to Intel Report for 1 just because it's guaranteed. Why do I keep forgetting I have Well Connected? I'll just investigate with Well Connected now. I definitely should have used it on the evade check instead, but this is at 1,000,000 just on autofail. Cool. I will take the clue. Milan will give me a resource. Please stop turning to your doom side. That's not what anyone wants. I will take the key as a lightning bolt, and I will read Flashback 4. Flashback 4 is an encounter with a secret cult and remove 1 squid from the bag. Now, I'd very much like to go down and use this ability to teleport across the map, but we're going to be hoofing it the long way because I don't want to drown to death, so I move to the underground river. Tony's turn. We need to deal with this quarry eventually. We're going to engage it finally with our bonus action because it has this bounty on it. It does have 4 fist, which is a lot. That's like Deep Wind Bull levels. But I don't want to spend my overpowers on this. So I'm just going to be shooting with my Mauser for my first shot. Cultist -2, that is a hit, but I don't ready the Mauser. I'm willing to spend 1 overpower on this. I still have Unexpected Courage and Overpower to hit it twice with my Knuckle Dusters, and then I can just straight punch. I don't have to worry about retaliate for the 3rd hit. So I'll use 1 overpower for the last hit. Didn't need it, but still. Second Lonnie is nice. It means I can burn the first one for soak if I need it, or I can just play it out for a fist icon, commit it rather. So this thing is finally dead. I'll take my bounty, get rid of the doom. And I'll be using that bounty money on Lonnie to heal her horror and the damage on the heavy furs. We can take this down to 0. No doom is on the board anymore. Eventually, Trish has to get over here and use this, but it's no rush at the moment. The best thing I can do on Tony is just start walking backwards. There's no reason for him to be all the way over here on his lonesome so far away from Trish. And that brings us to the upkeep phase. He draws Faustian Bargain. Trish draws Manual Decks. This man readies. Top of the round, 5 of 8 Doom and Evil cards. Undertow, Trish's location is flooded. It's kind of hard for her to make this test, so she probably has to take 2/2, and that really scares me. Anyway, let's check out what's happening on Tony's end. Deep Wind Assault. There are no deep ones at my location, so I have to pull a new one. Gonna see how many deep ones are left in the deck if it affects my decision making. There are actually 4 enemies in the deck left. Only 2 of them are threatening. I don't even count rats as an enemy, really. I think I'm gonna take the Lurking Deep One now. I think that's generally the right call. Even though I think the Lurking Deep One's a relatively soft card, I don't want a bunch of enemies spawning at once because Trish needs to be going for the rest of the game at this point. Anyway, he spawns in, deals a damage to my heavy furs. For Trish, I think the correct play is to play Deep Knowledge and draw 3 cards. It's gonna hit my weakness, isn't it? Okay, we did it. Good. The reason I wanted to do that was to draw something that felt less detrimental to discard because my hand was basically out of resources. I'm going to discard this Faustian Bargain, and I'm going to use Manual Decks to test at 6-3 on this weakness. It's -2, but even if it was -3, we'd still be getting rid of it. Draw a new card to replace it. Oh. Well, discarding a card from my hand sort of sucks here, but I can't stay where I am, otherwise I'll be caught. Yep, I'm going to just ignore that and move down. Side by side underwater caverns, Chris. Second one is completely useless. The good news, though, is that we're done with this half of the map. There's literally nothing over here left that we need. We know that our last locations are going to be this location for the keys, or the flashback, whichever it is. Yeah, the green key. There's going to be a flashback location in one of these, and the other one's going to be the exit. So let's go figure out which one it is, because the game's pretty much over. We're not going to have to deal with this amalgam, I don't think. This is the Bone-Ridden Pit. It gets -1 shroud for each key that we have here, so it's only a 2 shroud, 2 key location, or 2 clue location, rather. It's got Lightning Bolt to get flashback 2 if I have the yellow key. I'm guessing you need the green key to escape, because I honestly don't remember what it's for. Also, I probably should have put the key here. I got really confused for a second. I was wondering where the green key was when I realized I didn't have it. It's at this location, or more accurately, you get it from this location. But since it has no clues, the game rules don't quite work, and there has to be slightly jankier text. I was briefly very confused, though. Anyway, that's Trish's turn. Tony's turn. I'm not sure what Tony needs to do for the rest of this campaign. He's going to kill this guy, that's for sure. I didn't place a bounty on him, but this area is over, so I obviously should have. And I'm going to use my ability to knuckle dust him. Get him out of here. Give me my money. I'm going to move down to what I'm pretty sure is the escape hatch. This should be partially flooded, and this should be fully flooded. Yeah, we need the green key to leave. I think the only thing Tony can do that's actually helpful is to use Intel Report to get these clues immediately. I'm going to move over to this location, and I'm going to play Faustian Bargain so that I can Intel Report next turn without messing up my, well-connected over the Mythos phase. Of course, I will be putting curse tokens in the bag and probably making well-connected not as good, but hey, whatever. Anyway, when does this trigger? When my turn begins, so in a little while. Upkeep phase, let's not forget to move the hunters, though. He is going to be chasing us in Impotent Rage. Tony could actually just play his pair of his long colts at this point and stop using the Knuckle Duster. They would have enough bullets to finish out the game, but there's no real need for that. 6 of 8 Doom. Deep Wind Assault. He's not at a connecting location, so I'll be grabbing a new deep one. I want to grab one out of the discard pile this time, because I do not want to be in a situation... Yeah, the damage is starting to pile up on Trish, though. I don't want to be in a situation where I increase the odds of pulling Deep Wind Bull here. Riptide location is not unflooded, so I test 3 foot. It's not fully flooded, so it's just 3. And if I fail, I'm going to be losing an asset, which will be my cigarette case. We're well past the point of needing that. Although I could just as easily discard the Malter, I guess. Anyway, let's roll the dice. I don't care about the cigarette case. I'm not committing anything to this, and I fail. I don't even use well connected, which feels a little bit weird, but I think that's right. Goodbye, cigarette case. And the reason I'm not using well connected is because I'm bad at the game. Probably should have used well connected. I don't know what I thought could possibly happen. Trish gets a squid, maybe? I got nothing. Anyway, my turn. I'm going to use this to engage this man. Did I not put a bounty on him again? Again, the game is over. There's no reason I wouldn't be placing bounties on these guys. Like, there's actually nothing left. I am going to knuckle dust him at 6-2, so just on auto fail. Tablets. For some reason, I feel like something's really wrong, and I don't know what it is. Anyway, he's dead. I don't know what's going on in my head. I will take my bounty, and I will use 4 resources to play this intel report and get both clues at this location. And I can't shortcut Trish towards the next location, unfortunately, because if I did, she has to get the key. You need the yellow key to do this. I think I will shortcut myself, though. I want to move over here and then up. And Trish has her own shortcut, so it's not even a big deal. I'm going to shortcut myself. The game's pretty much over, and move on top of that to go up here to the title pool to be closer to where Trish will be ending her turn. Trish's turn will start. She will discard random card, the one on the right, every time. We don't need him. I mean, he would be kind of nice. We're getting a bit sketchy on our health, but we'll be fine. I lightning bolt to use flashback 2 because I have the yellow key. And now I'm going to move a cultist on the bag and record an encounter with a horrifying devil. Or a battle, rather. For Trish, I'm going to move, then shortcut, then move to get across the map to this location. And as an action, I'm going to spend 4 clues to take control of the green key. So these clues are gone, so is my last action, and Trish has all of the keys. That's our round. The Amalgam's going to hunt after us. Upkeep phase. Unexpected Courage is nice. Elder Sophist is nice. The Deep One Bull want to show up ever? 7 of 8 Doom. And evil cards. Rising Tides, my location is partially flooded, and nothing's preventing it from being fully flooded. So there we go. Over here for Tony. Rats. Like, I played around the idea of Deep One Bull. Like, I'm holding nothing but cards that are for Deep One Bull. He just didn't feel like showing up today, I guess. This is the weirdest way that I've played this. Before I played this for the channel, I actually tried to record it 2 previous times. One time I made a horrific misplay that completely worked at the beginning of the game and didn't realize it for like 30 minutes. Another time I just like, something came up and I stopped and I didn't want to pick the game back up in the middle. Both times, like, the game looked very different from this. This is far and away the best this team has done. And, like, I can't not notice that Deep One Bull just didn't show up. He's just in the bottom 7, and we didn't draw him the first time we shuffled the deck. Weird. Anyway, let's finish the game, because it's over, right? These don't have victory. We should have 4 flashbacks. We do. There's no clues anywhere else on the map. Everything's been revealed. Yeah, that's game. Trish is going to come down here. As an action, she's going to unlock the gate and resign, which is going to drop all of her keys and put all of her clues in the token bank. So that's Trish's turn. Tony is going to punch the rats. The rats are dead. He's going to walk down, pick up the green key, and then resign. So that's it. That was a weird bit of despair. Feels really strange to like talk a lot about a specific monster and how it's really important that I hold cards for it, and it doesn't show up. I don't even feel particularly lucky because Tony can handle it. It's just scary because of the reflect damage. Whatever. A win's a win, even if the scenario shouldn't go like that 9 times out of 10. All right, so let's read the resolution. That was much easier than it should have been, but I mean, we had 1 Doom left on that agenda and 3 Doom left on the fully flooded sketchy agenda. But yeah, that was comfortably winning. If we had fully flooded, would it have been really bad for us? Oh god, it would have been terrible for us. Both of our unfloodable locations are on the opposite side of the map. It gets real hard when that last scenario flips with this layout. But we comfortably finished way before that happened, so it's not a problem. Anyway, enough talking about how the scenario might have gone or should have gone. Let's read the resolution. The tunnel continues onward with no end in sight. Your lungs heave with pain. You've held your breath far longer than you ever thought possible. For a moment you wonder if you should turn back, but by now the entire cavern must be completely submerged. Even if it weren't, you couldn't hope to outlast the creatures that dwell inside for very long. There's no going back. Your only hope is to press forward. Another minute passes. The current seems to grow stronger as the tunnel narrows ahead. Your chest feels as though it's about to burst, and then finally you emerge in the ice-cold seawater and tumble out of the cavern, landing hard on a rocky shore. Resolution 1. So, unspent experience is my least favorite part of anything in Innsmouth. It feels like a mechanic that was designed fairly early on as something they thought was important, and never got around to properly implementing, but they never cut it either. Most of the time that it says, do not spend your experience, before you start the next scenario, you're told to spend your experience. This is one of those times. Anyway, we gain a victory X, which is only 2 from locations, but then we continue to interlude 1 puzzle piece. And for every one of those flashbacks we got 1 more experience, so that's 4 more experience, totaling 6. And just before I end the video, I want to point out that, yes, under your investigator setup, you may now spend your unspent experience. I just don't understand. Something that was said on playing board games at some point was that if they had all the flashbacks, like scenario 2 through 5 as flashbacks, and then you finally spent your scenario 1 experience at this end, and you just did all the present day stuff, I think that would have made much more sense than what they ended up doing. Right now, I very much feel like Innsmouth just randomly tells me to spend my experience or not, and has no bearing on chronology, which is clearly what it's supposed to be about. Because I am going back in time to a flashback right now, but I'm allowed to spend my experience anyway, so what are we even talking about? Anyway, to avoid ending this video on a sour note as I complain about the flashback stuff involving experience spending, I do really like Pit of Despair. It's weird how much of a walkover this one was, because I've had scenarios where on turn 6, I'm still in the first part because no one's getting online quickly. I'm drawing deep wind bulls and weaknesses constantly. But I guess it's just as true that sometimes the scenarios are incredibly easy, just like sometimes they're incredibly hard. Generally speaking, I really like Pit of Despair. It is quite random, like the entire map is randomly generated, and that's not something I'm a fan of. I feel like if I played it enough, I would start disliking it more and more. But right now, I still really like it. I think I only need to play it 1 time with a bad team before I'm like, oh, this is unpleasantly random. Like, if I'm playing a team I'm expecting to get into the flooding agenda because they aren't going that fast, and I have to deal with the random placements of the locations that can't be flooded, that feels real bad, I think. But even then, there's counterplay to it, right? A bad team should get less experience than a good team, and when you get these bad rolls, you know that it's happening. You can see that you have Underground River here, and realize we don't have time for this, we gotta keep going. I don't know. I have a really strong sneaking suspicion that the randomness in Pit of Despair is going to slowly make me dislike Innsmouth more and more, because lots of scenarios have this, but it's at its worst in Pit of Despair. But I do still really like Pit of Despair right now. I'm just worried about that. It hasn't actually happened. Anyway, I'm rambling, so enough of that. I've been rather incoherent. If you enjoyed the video, then like, comment, and subscribe. All of that really helps the channel grow, and I'll see you in the next one.